Oh, that's the only.
This is 28 months ago, I'm not used to it really. No. Just 8 months of 1 year, I'll pinch it on her. Just the youngest cousin, the next oldest. Or my close by, yeah. Thank you. She was in the.
I'd like to call to order this workshop. Today's workshop topic is the 2026-27 budget addenda. There'll be no votes taken at this workshop. Let's start with the introductions to commissioners and then the audience. Rafael Ortega, District 5.
Garrison McMurtry, Commissioner of District 3.
Kelly Miller, Commissioner, District 7.
Joanna Berg, Deputy County Manager. Alex Pitts, Chief Financial Officer.
Lynn Becker, County Manager. Rena Moran, Commissioner, District 4.
Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner, District 2.
Tara Jevon Singh, Commissioner, District 1.
Mai Chong Zhang, Commissioner, District 6.
Jason Yang, Chief Clerk.
Deanna Cassidy, Chief Financial Officer.
Kyle Vested, Undersheriff, Chief of Staff.
Nancy Pass, Director of Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center. Julian Hernandez, East. Rose Lente, Director of Communications and Public Relations.
Michael Soto, Director of Policy and Administrative Strategy. Peter Abbey, Deputy County Manager, South and Wellness Services.
Reed Garrett, Public Health Director. Terry Collins, Deputy County Manager, Economic Growth and Community Investment. Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager, Information and Public Records.
Laura Williams, Deputy County Manager for the Safety and Justice Service Team.
Larry Timmerman, Policy and Administrative Strategy.
Brady Frank, Deputy Director of Public Health.
Eric Clemenson, Outreach and Response Supervisor of Public Health.
Whitney Moore, Planning Specialist, ARI.
Jennifer Mark, Director of Government Relations.
Christy Cobbs, Planning Manager, County Manager's Office.
Ian Kudu, Property Management. Lindsay Bernard, Policy and Administrative Strategy.
Jen Hamrick, Policy and Administrative Strategy.
Pamela Mayor, Office of Safety and Justice.
Veronica Jackson, Race and Health Equity Administrator.
Good, thank you. Why don't I let you take it on?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we're tight on time, so I think one of the goals is I'll just quickly go through a couple background slides and then the addenda that we're proposing come in 3 different buckets essentially. So ideally, if we could get through the first couple in about half hour, I think that'll leave us enough time with the afternoon workshop as well to get to the reduction. So if we can go to the next slide.
Striving to
Oh.
do that.
Jason just left.
Jason just.
Just-
I tried both.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, so as we've talked, pretty significantly, counties across the state and nation are navigating really challenging times, and there's a lot of significant cost shifts and unfunded mandates. On September 2nd, when I presented the budget to you, I called it a budget of responsible choices that held 3 things true at the same time. We made some reductions in staffing. We also did some service cuts, as well as made some additional investments, because I felt that all those were things that we needed to sort of shore ourselves up for the future. On September 23rd, the board adopted your 2026 maximum property tax levy at 9.75. That is a very significant levy for this county, and that, and obviously you know that that has significant impacts for property owners. Your direction to me was to find additional potential options to further bring down that levy. Next slide. So I've worked closely with the core budget team. CFO Kutza, Deputy County Manager Joanna Berg have been key leaders on that budget team, along with Larry Timmerman and also Planning Manager Christy Cobbs, who's helped pull a lot of this addenda material together. The addenda that you have before you are a compilation of several things. One is, as part of the building the county manager budget, the core budget team had department directors engage in what was a 5% reduction exercise. This was a muscle strengthening for us as an organization, something we have not done in any of our memories, where we asked department directors to sort of find those things that, if, you know, they were gonna scalpel a part of the budget that they held responsibility for, what they would submit. We also heard loudly from all of you as part of discussions and feedback from the board budget presentations and the hearings. And so some of those were taken into account as I went through and tried to identify addenda items as well. And so those all led to a compilation of these additional recommendations. I just want to stress that this is the second round of this work. The first round was already done as before we held the September 2nd and proposed that budget to you. So in this second round of cuts, you know, or addenda items, are not all cuts, as I'll explain in a minute, but these are all have real impacts. Everything that we do is not easy. We are balancing this tension of how to keep the property tax to be something realistic and affordable for our community, while ensuring that we can run our organization and deliver on our organization's vision, mission, and goals. And sometimes those come in direct tension with one another, and we have to make hard choices. So today's focus, while we have a biennial budget, you will have a chance to talk about the 2027 levy once again next year. So really today we are focused on the 2026 general levy. And so what we have before you, if you want to go to the next slide, are 3 sets of addenda for you to review. The first, all 3 of these categories reduce the general property tax levy in different ways. The first one are budget shifts. These are things that would lower our general property tax levy by reallocating these levy funded activities to other sources of funding, primarily grant funds. And we'll talk about the trade-offs with those as we go through. The second one is additional revenue. We do have 2 addenda items that we believe are viable revenue producing items that would also reduce the general property tax levy. And then we have a longer list of reductions, which would mean, you know, essentially, as we've talked about with the NACO sort of choices, you know, either we raise property taxes or we decrease services. And so these are the list of sort of some of those decreasing services. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you if you want to facilitate the talking through of these budget shifts, but we have 6 shifts here. I will say all of these, with the exception of number 3, are in economic growth and community investment. Number 3, maybe I'll call that one out first because it is an anomaly. That third one is a 2027 savings around shifting some of the ARI staff to the opioid settlement resources. And why we aren't able to shift that in 26 is the ARI project is not hitting our property tax levy in 26. It is being funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. So if you, so again, I mean, we can talk about number 3, but I think where you want to focus today, 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. I do want to say we heard you about the opioid funds as part of the budget discussions, and so that's kind of where that lever was sort of pulled. So, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, I'm gonna ask the board, are there any questions on these shifts? We talked.
Right, we totally.
So, go ahead.
I get it, Mr. Chair. We have talked about these, just for the record. When we shift from levy to grants, their grants are not permanent. So these are things that we may have to pick up again on levy at some point,
Right.
like housing stability from general levy to opioid. So once the settlement dollars are gone, and maybe we'll get more information on the opioid settlement. We don't have to go into that whole thing now, but that's just one of the trade-offs as we're doing this. And this is, you know, a year that we're getting ready for even worse kinds of things. But just so that we're aware that we're shifting to things that may not be very permanent, although the community economic development is shifting to HRA levy. It just means that's okay. I mean, that's a levy that should take that anyway.
Yeah, that, Madam Chair, or Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, Commissioner, that's right. When I kind of jumped too fast when I just said
Yeah.
grant funds, there's multiple layers
Yeah.
here. There's things like the HRA levy, which is
Right.
has more permanency. I will say, you know, the LAHA funds are a new source of funds. You know, that's something we have to continue to advocate for at the state. Opioid funds have a fairly long runway for us right now, you know, almost in the 10-year range or 9-year range. I will say, the Met Council one is a grant. And then the CASA and Wheelage, you know, that's a fairly consistent funding source for the county as well. I think if, EGCI, those service team directors and BCM probably would just emphasize, anytime we shift off of the levy, that's our most flexible funding. So the trade-off is, you know, we lose flexibility and we try to preserve that as much as possible. But again, at this moment, we're trying to balance that tension. And I think that's one of the reasons why these weren't brought forth as the first round of cuts in the budget, because we're always trying to preserve that flexibility to be able to do the work with as much nimbleness as possible.
The only, to your point, the only concern I have long term would be the LAHA funds. What's the runway on that? Do we have any sense? Yes,
Yeah, can we do it?
Question answer too.
Well, while we're waiting, I just have a quick question on organization of this, our workshop. If the way the packet is, we have a page for each of these items. How in depth do you want our questions to be at this point versus when we get to those later slides? I'm confused as to how in depth to go at this point. Are we taking these all lock, stock and barrel and we should move ahead to the individualized sheets to get our questions? How are we organizing our time?
Bring up, we've talked about much of this before. You bring up your questions whenever you want. Let's move that way.
Okay.
Well, I mean, as the discussion goes along.
Are we gonna go through the packet to the individual or are those back up to this slide?
I would say, say that I think one way to do the shifts, because they're very similar, would be, let's try to talk about, like, I was trying to cover just the global things that apply to all of them.
Sure.
Let's have Carrie answer the LAHA question, and then if you have something about a particular shift, we can definitely address that.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I just,
Um,
yeah.
Just because we're short on time.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah, they won't be in the slides.
if there's an issue that takes more time, we might have to have, I can't take care of it this afternoon, we might have to have another workshop. But let's take this and these should be pretty easy, in my opinion. But go ahead, LAHA funds.
Yeah, I'll just remind you, so the LAHA funds is the housing sales tax, and so we got partial payment for LAHA in 2024. This is our first year that we actually received the full allocation, which was to the tune of about $12 million. Those funds, in terms of the range of eligibility, are split between community and economic development and housing stability for a variety of investments along the housing continuum. As to its permanency, it should stay intact. It's a sales tax unless the legislature does something different, which.
Well, that's really what I'm asking.
Yeah, and so it's hard to know if, you know, there's any signals for that quite yet. We'd be looking to government relations to certainly signal, and then we would rally, you know, in certainly in opposition to any sort of derailing of that particular housing sales tax.
Is this the addenda item on 14 that's highlighted on page 14, the shifts families?
Yeah.
service-
Yep,
So-
we're on number 2.
Okay,
There.
so on that further explanation, it says that the reallocation utilizes unspent direct assistance funds to support these services center expenses. Why do we have unspent funds?
Thanks for that question. Yeah, so the unspent direct assistance is, we have to, as we budget each year, do a forecast of how many families we intend to serve. And so there's no way, of course, it fluctuates by the year in terms of who we're serving. And so therefore, kind of like financial assistance services, you know, they have to do a certain amount of forecasting for emergency assistance. It's very comparable to that. And I would say, based off what we've historically observed, there's been some remaining unspent funds annually. And so the intention is to carve out some of that and make the shifts accordingly.
Given the needs in housing and emergency housing and housing stabilization, is this because of a lack of need or a lack of us meeting the need and providing services as they're needed?
No, that's a great question. I think that's a good question I could take back for the interim director of housing stability and get kind of more thorough response in terms of the ecosystem. Because I would imagine it's probably more complex than I can share with the table, yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring that up is in the greater ecosystem of changes that are coming, any forecasts are going to be like a hit or a miss as we go forward, because we don't know what the future brings, so.
Absolutely, yeah, very true.
And just to say, we are gonna be faced with a lot of issues that are both equally overvalued, so, gonna have to choose between food and housing, that kind of thing, I mean. So,
It's so hard not to get into detail because I just have questions and I'm gonna try not to, but just on the Parks and Rec. Because we all advocate for more Met Council dollars to our Parks and Rec department and a lot of times it's for trails and things and we're allowed to obviously use this for maintenance and things. I was always thinking that the Met Council funds were supposed to be used for like bigger projects, but obviously you're using it for something we can use it for. It just means we don't get to extend that trail as fast as possible. We don't get to do other things when we're using that Met Council dollars.
And just a point of clarity, Commissioner, thank you for that.
Yeah.
These are state funds. This is the lottery in lieu of sales tax funding
Okay.
that Met Council administers on their behalf.
Oh,
So
okay.
Met Council then takes out the kind of formula allocation and appropriates it to local government units, and we get a share of that.
Okay, so this is different than the Parks funding.
Yes.
This is different than unfunded that I'm thinking of.
This is
Okay.
for operation and
Yeah,
maintenance of
thank
park
you.
facilities.
Okay, so I'm thinking of a different fund, so thank you for that.
Mhm.
Rena,
I guess I just want to say, want to thank the county managers for being really creative about moving money, in a time where there were some difficult decisions that needs to be made and the burden is on the county to deliver service and just trying to think about what is county responsible services and how do we best utilize our partners and partnerships that we have to be really creative in looking at, and we asked for a lower levy.
Right.
We want
We
a
asked for
lower
the-
levy. And so, but just being very creative and finding those dollars to shift, so that we can get to the place we want to be. That's really reasonable for us as a county. So I just wanted to state that.
Commissioner Singh,
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of Commissioner McGuire's question about the parks. I just, so we asked for the levy to be drawn down and you've been doing this work. And so this is $40,000 that will be taken out of park maintenance. So I just want, so that curious just to ask, what would this might be, how would residents experience this? Say next summer after the 4th of July, when our parks have had heavy use, what might this look like? So that when we get a call, we can say, yes, this is part of the hard decision we had to make in keeping the levy dollars down.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. So we did kind of pose this question to Director McCabe, and he provided examples such as painting of park shelters, refinishing flooring in park restrooms, patching pavement. So really kind of basic level infrastructure, maintenance for our park system. However, you'll also note that, as part of the impacts, we are still continuing to advocate for the state to pay us their share of what they previously obligated for park maintenance. And so that's kind of a twofold here in terms of, yes, we can probably, it's palatable for a shift here to reduce levy, but we also need the state to be contributing in a more meaningful way.
Thank you.
What is that percent? What is that percentage that we're not getting again? Remind me that we're supposed to get, but they do this in a lot of formulas. We're supposed to get so much and we only get so much. Supposed to get 40. And we're supposed to get 40 and we're only getting like 20.
10%.
Yeah. These numbers are astounding and we do talk to the legislature about this, but
Yeah.
just to remind us, that's 40 to 10, that's crazy. Yeah. Wow.
Jefferson,
Quick clarification on the wheelage tax, the revenue. Are we maximizing the amount that we're able to tax when it comes to that particular tax?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Question on the the housing stability, the shifts housing stability department operating costs to the opioid settlement fund. I just want to say, first of all, I really do appreciate, this is something that several of the commissioners had called out, was that there's cross-departmental work that's impacted by the opioid epidemic, and I'm glad to see this. But one of the questions that I had, this might be a little bit more policy related, and I apologize, but I think it's important that this is what these documents reflect. What, do we have a sense of, I mean, there's an overlapping Venn diagram of residents who need emergency housing and housing stability, who are either actively in having a substance use disorder or being impacted by opioids, or their family has been impacted by this epidemic. And I'm just wondering, one, do we have a sense of what kind of percentage of folks who are being served by this fall into that category? And then the other question, I think is more pressing, you don't have to answer this now, but what are housing options for individuals actively using or working towards recovery within our housing stability services here in Ramsey County? So I know that that's broader than today, but given that now, I would say that at some point we will be having an active community and resident centered discussion around the broader use of these opioid dollars. And as we're taking bites of them now for this, I'd like to be able to explore to say that while we're serving multiple goals within some of our county, that while we're drawing these funds down, that we are also mindful that we're using them in a way that is addressing this epidemic in a meaningful way. So that would be helpful for me to know going forward, that there's some intention with us tapping into the settlement dollars, that it's being used not only in, obviously these are being used in ways that are allowable. But we can clearly articulate that. That would be helpful for them.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Griffin, I do think, the one thing I'd like to say about the opioid funds is, I think that we have sometimes forget that in other projects, we've done a significant amount of community engagement, and people have pushed us to do things differently in some other spaces, and now we are trying to find ways to sustain them using the funding that we have. And so I would say, like with ARI, for example, there was significant amount of community engagement work to continue to advance that project. We decided to operationalize and put a significant amount of levy actually in 2027. But to be able to spread that burden just even slightly into the opioid dollars, it also not only diversifies the funding stream a little bit, but it forces the teams to sort of work together. And there's something about using that money more collaboratively that gets people in a room and sort of have that, like, what are you doing? And what are we doing? That's very intentional. And I think that's a positive. I will say around the housing stability shift, the opportunity I see is, in understanding how St. Paul is using their opioid money and leveraging their HEART team, which is their encampment work. We actually have a significant amount of work that housing stability does around encampments. It is an ongoing pressure. I would like to hope that we can be better partners with the city here as we sort of work on the encampment issue. And while not everybody who's in an encampment had a substance abuse issue, it is a significant reason why they are there. And one of the reasons why they are not going to shelter and going to other facilities is because they're choosing to stay in the community so they can use. And so we do need to figure out how these things are intertwined. So I feel positive about this. I know we have more work to do. I want to make sure that we treat this money with a collaborative lens around multiple DCM sort of holding departments accountable to sort of working together because this is not a short-term thing either. I mean, to me, a 9 or 10-year funding stream, we really need to see how it takes some money off the levy. I think it's a moment in time. We talk about the NACO shift being a 10-year shift. This needs to be part of the equation. So thank you.
I appreciate.
Well, it's 15 years. Okay.
15, yeah.
CFO corrected me. Yeah. It's even.
Well, and I totally appreciate that. And that's what I was hoping to hear, because the levy funded dollars and all other funded dollars have been addressing these issues way before settlement dollars came in. So some of it is just making sure that we're making whole the work that's already been invested. But I appreciate that, because children who are born into homes where this was part of their lives, it will be a lifelong concern. And so I appreciate that we're integrating these funds in a cross-sector way. Thank you.
And could I just, what I read, and you can clarify, what I'm reading here is that we're not doing the work. you know, we just giving some relief to the general levy, which
Mhm.
is what, you know, we're putting the burden on the taxpayers. And now we're just doing it another way. And still do the work. And I really like the idea of bringing partners to the table, to be more creative, more innovative, and to be a real partner. You know, we have been doing a lot of things that maybe we should have been asking community partners and others to, you know, do their fair share. And so it's an opportunity, right, to look at what we do, how we do it, and keep doing it, but to lower that levy, we have to lower that levy.
You know, in the future, so that's a good point that Vina, right now, we're just moving, that's why I'm like, I thought we could pass this, and, you know, as a whole. Cause we're basically moving dollars.
Yeah.
It's the color of the money, but the activity is still the same. But in the future, as things get tougher, maybe we need an extra column to say, here's the financial impact, and we might have had to reduce 10% of the services, or 5%. I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that, but in the future, for better discussion, maybe we need to know what that fiscal impact might be on services.
I'm just wondering, can you share with us what's the impact of those savings? What does that do?
So, Nicole can share what's 1% of the levy.
Is it 1%?
1% is about $4 million.
Okay.
So the total, if you add up all the numbers here today, it's about $6 million. So it depends on what you end up doing.
So that's from a 9.75. Yeah. To
It just depends on what you end up doing.
what are we looking at?
We'll be heading close to 8.
Okay, yeah.
Just understanding that while we're shifting the funding source, it does have subtle impacts on the work that's being done.
Absolutely.
Because there'll be limitations that are different than a general levy. So one of the questions that I had is on that last item. Shifting the dollars off the levy into the wheelage taxes. It says in our description that there may be some more restrictive allowable uses. Like, I guess my question is, can you give an example of what additional limitations that shifting this from the levy into the wheelage tax? Is this one where there is any additional limitations, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I actually posed this question to Public Works staff, and so I can provide you with their response. I said, you know, help me understand what, you know, how we use flexible general funds in these particular projects. And one example they gave was for Rice Street. So you can only use some of these funding sources to a certain point, and then if you go beyond the kind of bare minimum, then it's on you to fund. And one aspect of that is engagement. So we do have heightened level of engagement at Ramsey County, and we have to have project, you know, flexible levy funds to be able to support that work. Rice Street was an example of that. And then they also provided examples such as additional costs such as damage claims, advertising, printing for road and drainage construction projects that are not CASA designated. So if it sits outside of the CASA network, you know, we have some degree of funding sources that can advance the project, but then we do need to lean on general levy to kind of round it out.
And the reason why I asked that is, again, so I'll give an example. I had a very happy White Bear Township customer send a picture of an overlay project in a much needed street in their house with the follow-up that said, my only concern was they hadn't signed it and advertised that it was happening. And so I had to wait to leave my house that morning because I didn't know that they were going to be right there that hot second, right? So it's a kind of thing of that kind of engagement with. And so I guess my question would be, you know, again, happy to see this. And I think overall, as long as we set expectations appropriately, that our communities will be grateful for this, but it will require us to be able to say, so like some of those times when we meet with community and they say, but if only you could add X to this project, it would make a difference in our neighborhood. We will at some points have to say more often under this budget with this kind of consideration that that flexibility is not as broad as we used to have. Am I interpreting that right?
Commissioner, I think every shift that you're seeing is not without impact.
Yeah.
And the flexibility seems like it's something that's a nice to have, but it is a must have when you're trying to do the work of braiding several funding sources together to make a complex project go. So I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
So as we go forward, I guess my call would be is that we use it judiciously, transparently, and honestly. But when under this budget, we do come across those things that we're not afraid to say, this is one of those costs of keeping our property tax values down as a way of asking for grace.
Yeah, correct.
Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Jefferson bringing that up, and getting more clarity around that, because I would say one of the successes of Rice Street has been the community engagement. And, as we look at other projects, when you say that the community engagement can be impacted, is that mostly on some of the tactics that we use, or does this also have an impact on, potential staff that's devoted towards that work?
Moving forward, it could have an impact in staff. There are no staffing implications as a result of the shift right now. But thinking about Rice Street, there was a designated individual that was there for business engagement. And so that isn't something that would traditionally be covered by those funding sources. And so, this was a kind of a collective or team effort to say, how can we reduce the levy in a meaningful way collectively? But not in a way that is going to jeopardize the expectations of community. And so it is a significant shift, but we still have enough general levy to be able to support the level of engagement that community is expecting at this time. So.
You just kind of hit what I was just going to ask, was that the work will still be done, it's just funding in a different way, right? So like the engagement's still going to happen, it's just not coming out of this pot of funding, someone else with the job that more aligns with that, really.
Yeah, I would say this is what is palatable in terms of a shift at this time. However, to Commissioner Jevons's point, as we navigate future budget cycles, should things continue to become pressed, then there will be impacts to the level of engagement that we may be able to provide, or the level of, full project scope, in terms of what we can provide in these big complex construction projects. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think what Carrie's saying is, we asked folks to kind of give us the amount of shift that was sort of bearable. Recognizing there's still levy in some of these areas, obviously. Should we have to keep going down another layer of scalpeling and had to go back to the strategy again, it'll be a harder and harder conversation every time, right? And so I still think with this, Public Works will have a fair amount of flexibility still, but does it mean that they might have to prioritize a little differently? Certainly, because every one of these does reduce something, so, yeah.
And let me ask you this, what is the current village tax? What is it?
The amount.
Yeah. And let me tell you how other boards, unless the rules have changed, let me tell you how other boards around the state, counties deal with this. This in some counties use it, what we used to call, when I did budgets, a plug-in figure. In other words, I put together my public works budget. Here are my projects, here's how I'm gonna do it. Here's the bottom line. And then they used it very astutely politically, and they said, and we're gonna take this tax and reduce the levy. You're getting to the same place, but it's the manipulating of the dollars. And I personally don't feel that we're gonna have short term here, unless things really get bad, then all bets are off. But we're not gonna have, projects are not gonna get done.
Right, not as fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, just to confirm that everybody wants their streets done, everybody wants projects done, except for when it affects their traffic flow, but otherwise, everybody wants projects done, and they're just not gonna get done as fast with some of this delay, on funding.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
just
right,
the
okay.
flexibility of covering the
Yeah.
kind of the gray area associated with
Yeah.
a capital project just might we'll need to get more creative in terms of rounding that out if we need to make further cuts down the road. And that's what kind of Manager Becker was getting at. This is what was palatable to the department at this time. They still have general levy to support these initiatives. And it might even mean less about project delivery. It may be more timing, just waiting, for certain funds to come through or separating out the time between projects. I mean, there's a variety of strategies that we can employ, so.
Chair, I just want to say that, I appreciate this exercise, that the 5% exercise. I think that this is what our constituents ask us to do when they say, in your home budget or your business budget, you do some belt tightening, and sometimes it's just making sure that you're being more focused, and tighter in the way that you're doing your work. So I appreciate that this came from the departments themselves rather from the outside. They understand their work better than we do. But also thank them for being vulnerable and offering up potential places to tightening up the belts, and that's where we're at. So I am for this slate that we're seeing up here. Thank you for answering those questions.
Am I missing somebody?
All right. Joanna, could you go to the next slide? So, the next category are 2 additional revenue items, and so maybe we can just, speak to both of these, at a very high level. Unless you guys want more detail, I can call Deputy County Manager Francois up here, but, as you know, we, shifted our navigators from, what was the Enterprise Administrative Services area this year over to financial assistance as part of the All Hands on Deck initiative. Through that restructure, those navigators are now eligible for the random moment time study. And so we believe that we can recoup about $500,000 of revenue. There might be slightly more as we go through the year. I've been working with the team on potentially reallocating any additional funds on a community navigator model, similar to the board item you had heard from Dr. Ali about partnering with a nonprofit who has case management, like how we could maybe use some funds to do like a matching with some of our key like organizations that have case management that are supporting our similar residents. So this is an estimate that the team came forward with as a reasonable amount. You have an item, you have a document that goes into that. So we can talk about that, and then I'll shift to Alex on the investment revenue.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner.
Oh, I can see if they have a
sorry.
question.
Hold on a minute, did you have a question?
Just the idea, I think you answered it pretty well, but just the idea of, I know that several times during the budget process, we called out, hey, you've made these investments, you've made some policy changes, have you baked in your forecasting? And because it's to our earlier point, forecasting is always that, it's not a science, it's somewhat of a science, but also a little bit, you're not really sure. So I appreciate that these are being recognized here. And I guess how, given that we pushed you to do that, how confident are you that the 500,000 will be actualized? Is it still a conservative number, or did we?
I believe it's a conservative number, but Deputy County Manager Francois has been doing a lot of forecasting with her team, so I believe, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Would you, yeah,
Want
do
me
you
to
wanna
come up? I
elaborate?
would say exactly
Yeah,
what.
okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
Interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is because, I so far, I like that the numbers that we've been working on, we can feel fairly confident. We're not forcing you to go out on a limb. I don't think that should be, public dollars should be organized, so I appreciate this is still a conservative number.
Yes.
Okay,
Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioner, so on the investment revenue, we constantly look at how much money our investment's making. And we make assumptions in the budget every year for how much money we will make on interest for our investments. We've had particularly good years in recent times because of the market. That doesn't mean in a down year we're not doing good investments. It just means the market changes. And so adding this amount of money, we added money in the base budget. This additional amount, I believe it's conservative. It assumes about a 2.5% return. This is both on short-term and long-term. I know that y'all got the investment report recently this week from Jeanette Boyd-Cania, who does our investments. She's very good at it. She has a lot of strategy around it. So we're confident in the 2.5%. If the market changes significantly, that's the risk, right? And we will have to manage that. On a good note, if the market changes significantly, we sell some bonds, we'll get a low interest rate. So,
And so, Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to say is this ongoing or one time? I mean, this is ongoing savings that we
Mr. Chair.
can expect or one time? I'm trying to think in my head how to think about it.
so Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
So we have a pool of money that we invest
Yeah.
and we're always thinking about what is our strategy for investment within the confines of state law and your policies. And this is ongoing and something that you budget for every year. This just increases it.
And do we get this good return because we're triple up bond rated with, or is that different?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that would be when we sell bonds and we get good rates on the bonds. That's based on our
That's what the
AAA.
AAA.
This is really about a real strategic approach to investment.
Great, good
Mhm.
job.
But we are talking only about the 26th level.
Yes, thank you.
For next year, we gotta look at it.
We gotta
Yeah.
look at it again. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, I know just enough about finance to get myself in trouble. But one of the things that is a good thing and a bad thing is, from my understanding too, one of the reasons why the market is doing well and one of the reasons why we're able to capitalize on that also has to do with inflation. Cost of everything is up too. So it's a pain point one way, it's a boon one way and a pain point the other. So at some point, I mean, this helps us to raise revenue to keep up with the increased needs of families that are struggling to keep up with that inflationary rate. So I'm glad that at least we're leaning into that if we have the capacity. And then also to your point, should those tides switch, you're also doing smart bonding, forecasting. So we have a diversified portfolio and you all are working to make sure that, that we're not just taking swings and hitting big swings and chasing fads, but you have a complex and well thought out portfolio to make the best of this. And I would just say that if as these are dynamic and ongoing planning, if you have different opportunities or strategies or things that would require our education, maybe not as much as our oversight or approval, but to bring the board along on that, I think that would help us support the work that goes on behind the scenes that isn't as clear as a line item on a budget sheet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I did want to add that this is an average, right? Some years we may make 4.5%, and some years we may make 1% or hardly anything. And so we're trying to hit an average over time. This line item budget is a big line item budget. It's over $10 million a year that we make in interest. So I'd be happy to come back anytime and talk you through how we approach that too. It wouldn't be me, actually, it would be Jeanette, but I'd be happy to bring her along.
So, Mr. Chair, we are at noon, but we have our list of reductions. Do you want to try to do a couple of them before we break, or do you want to wait? So if you're the chair.
We have that too.
Yeah, was this part of this afternoon's workshop?
We were hoping to just split. I think this is gonna be a more meatier part of the discussion, so if you want to try to do a couple, we could do that, or it's really up to you.
What is the pleasure of folks? Do you wanna?
I have to leave at 12:15.
Okay.
Huh?
I have to leave at 12:15.
Okay, will you be back for the other half? Certain?
Well, yeah, it's on our agenda.
Well, we could go to 12:15,
That's right.
if it's okay with folks.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is another one that is from EGCI, so Carrie could answer any questions, but just real high level. We're gonna reduce, the general levy by $90,000, which would also, trickle into a delay of what's called the CEO next cohort until 2027, when the HRA levy could, expands into that, new EDA programming and could pick up the cost of that $90,000. So, it's a program that helps business retention and expansion for second stage companies. Basically, the leaders of those companies get some technical assistance and are joining a cohort of folks. And so if you have any questions, Carrie's here, but that's the gist of it.
So,
I just was wondering, do we have, we've talked about looking at alternative revenue. Have we ever looked at sponsorships or partnership fees? I'm thinking of like our business partners or Carlson School of Management or St. Thomas or any of our folks who may want to be partners in this kind of work of lifting up our business community and this kind of ongoing professional development.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I think the benefit of this particular program is that we do it in partnership with the other counties. And so I
Okay.
think we do get some degree of, we'll call it back office support. Hennepin County, on behalf of the counties, they help with the promotion, the advertising, the recruitment of businesses, which is actually going on right now for 26. So we're able to pay for those slots, and it's 5 to 10 businesses roughly a year. That kind of fit within that cohort model. So we can float it for 26, and then reevaluate in the years ahead. And I think, especially coming off the heels of the ICLV Detroit conference, I think there's lots of opportunity for business and or philanthropic partners to come in and to be able to maybe support Ramsey County in unique ways, such as CEO Next. So that's kind of on the docket for future consideration as well.
So.
We should, I'm sorry, but to your point, rather than trying to pair up one or two little bit, we should have a strategy behind business cooperation
Yeah.
across the board.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
appreciate that tremendously, and I guess with the partnership with other counties, if we were to delay our cohort, does this muck with any of our commitments to them, or how are, I mean, I guess those relationships are important too, so what does that mean for that?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So it won't for 26, since they're recruiting now, we'll use 25 funds to pay for 26. For 26, there's always they get the group together and they say, all right, is everyone in? And so I think we'll just need to strategize with the conversion from the HRA to the EDA. It does provide some flexibility to do business programming. And so that was really intended to be the long-term strategy in the event we want to continue to support businesses in this way. So.
Thank you.
I had
Garrison.
Garrison, Delina, then Mary Jo.
Well, you just answered my question on the cohort for 26. I know that they're currently doing solicitations for folks who want to be a part of the 2026 cohort. But it had me think about, if we're gonna eventually pull this funding out of the EDA, have we landed on what percentage or just general amount of HRA will be devoted towards the EDA, and what percent would this amount have of that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think our kickoff of the next iteration of the economic competitiveness and inclusion plan will help to really refine the balance of housing to business kind of funding. And so I think that was really in the intention, is to take the 2026 to say, all right, where do we want to be when it pertains to the business ecosystem, knowing we're still going to play a pretty significant integral part in affordable housing supply, but what is that, right sizing it so that we're not duplicative of existing small business programs that are out there, but that we're really being strategic in how we use the EDA portion of that. So Commissioner, I can't tell you the split right at this time, but I think that'll all shake out as part of this next planning phase.
I've raised the same question with Carrie before.
I think you go over there first.
Yeah.
Lena.
She's at the Mary Jo.
Mary Jo.
Yeah. So, number 13, to eliminate the unassigned funding support for resident first strategic priority. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and the impact of?
Oh, we're going in order.
Oh, we're going in
Commissioner,
order.
So we're on number 9 right now.
Oh, we
We'll
have
get
to go
through 'em.
on? Okay.
you're way ahead of us, yeah.
We did the other one a little loose, I would say. We did the first one.
Just a quick, because we've all been, our heads are filled with all these, ideas that we've gotten at our different, opportunities for conferences. Detroit Impact, when we were out learning about all of that, and I was at Luck Lodge, Urban County, where I was in Milwaukee. So I'm just hoping we have a workshop where we can really talk about business partnerships and we all learned so much about the opportunities that can revitalize, our county and our cities, our city and the county. And so I'm just putting that on the docket that we maybe do a
Yeah.
little bit of a debrief for all of the opportunities
idea.
we've been having. Just wanna get it out there.
Kelly.
Okay, going back to this, maybe you can tell me like later on about, I just want curious about like the outcomes and what we've seen from this program and how, you know, us being a part of this has helped the business community and helped them long-term, like maybe we could go a few years back and see, you know, what they've learned and how they've, you know, gotten better. And then I just wanted to make one note, because you brought up the point, Commissioner McMurtry, about the EDA and the HRA and what split that's gonna look like, because I'd be cautious, or I'm curious to see how that plays out as well, just because we don't want to continue to take from current funding sources that are using the HRA to now do something else, like it's kind of, we want to find that good balance, right? We don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, right?
I'm glad you raised that as part of the addenda process. I think the kind of flag of concern is also balancing, the constraints on the administrative side of the HRA. So we have kind of a unofficial commitment to city partners that we wouldn't exceed 10% of administrative expenses. The more we push onto the HRA, EDA, you know, the general levy was really that release valve to just kind of help keep it at 10%. But under current economic conditions, that just might not be feasible. And I think that's okay, to push upwards of 10 to 15% administrative, but that's going to play into this balancing programming. We also don't want to create, you know, $500,000 programs where it's like you get a $10,000 grant and you get, I mean, there needs to be a significant impact, and we'd be happy to bring back kind of the degree of evaluation we do on the businesses that have participated, what they say about the program, and the kind of information we have from an evaluative perspective. We'll share that with the board as soon as we can prepare.
Thank you.
My son,
On that topic about our HRA, since we have, you know, two large solicitations, typically, do we charge fees for those applications to review them?
We do not charge fees.
Or like an application fee? Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. We do not charge fees for processing. But the staff that are administering the program are paid out of the HRA. So it's just kind of an easier way than, you know, an application or processing fee. However, you know, we've worked with government relations on really trying to carve out on the housing sales tax what an administrative carve out would look like. And as I understand it, you know, we'll probably be going in with Hennepin County again this session to have them really define that, because deploying $12 million annually is a big undertaking, and without some degree of clarity around the administrative side, it's just basically, it's taking your existing staff and saying, now you have to do way more. And there's more solicitations, there's more work in the county attorney's office in terms of grant agreements, there's more everything. And so, we have thought about a strategy associated with processing fees absent clarity in the legislation around administrative percentages. So.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad that that's being considered and, you know, thought through, to the administrative fee of our HRA levy. I want us to honor that, because I know just even to establish that levy took a lot of, you know, building trust with our city partners. So I want us to hold as close as possible to that.
Yeah.
Does this proposal bump us over that 10%?
I think it will bump us over 10%. I think we'll continue to max out the program. So community development block grant, that, you know, that federal program has a percentage. Home is going away. Housing sales tax, again, there's an unknown there. And so we continue to max out the administrative percentages that we currently, IRF has I think a 3% administrative percentage statutorily. So we'll continue to max those out. But it does put strain on the HRA. And with that said, I think, you know, there's still the significantly, the bulk of that list is going back into community and community investment. So if we start to see 12, 13% I think that the city partners are like, we get it, and that's okay, because you're doing way more in terms of the housing sales tax, but it is something that we need to be mindful of and we need to watch.
I just so appreciate, Commissioner Jean bringing this up, because we all know in all of our cities, you did such a great job of really presenting all of this work to them, and I think just as long as we keep them, informed, let them know all the work that we're doing, and just keep them, all the staff and the electeds, knowing all of this is really important.
And I'll just add, Commissioner, that those are the same people that have been filling our inboxes about the property tax. So I think they have to understand this is the
Yeah.
duality of managing
Yeah.
it all. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, those Ramsey County communities that are being levied for the HRA levy, those are the same communities that pay our property taxes too. It's the
Yeah.
same household.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to balance the best we
Yeah.
can, right? And they are too. And they're all at over 2 digits too themselves at all our cities, so. Do you wanna try to do one more?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
To go.
Oh, maybe not then.
If we, the next one might be quick.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, the number 10 is we currently provide operating dollars to the Ramsey County Historical Society. It's about $87,000 a year. This would reduce our operating contribution to them by $40,000. So, if you have questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Just quick on that, Mr. Chair. I'm quickly looking for the handout on this. This just reduces our contribution, which is a portion of what they need. I'm trying to look at what their whole budget is, like, what is this percentage? It's almost half of our contribution to them, but what percentage of their budget is it? It's, I don't know, I don't remember what their budget is.
It's large.
Yeah, it's big enough, and, did we talk to Chad Roberts about this, and, I mean, he doesn't love it, he doesn't like it.
It's gone.
And he's gone, he's leaving, or is he
Yeah.
gone already? I know he's
So
leaving.
he's there through, I believe, the
Yeah.
21st
Yeah,
of
okay.
November. I had the chance to talk to Chad, and he, as you can imagine, of course, is disappointed, but
Yeah.
understands the predicament that we're in as
Yeah.
a county. And mentioned, hoping that we can, eventually someday be able to get back to what we were with the funding, but he understands that we had to make this choice.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been trading phone calls, so I hadn't had a chance to. Thank you. Thank you for that, update, and I think it is.
Same
Percentage, just a smaller.
Their revenue's about 2.6.
Thank you, because we appreciate the work that they do. I mean, this is not I think we just need to say always, this is not a reflection of the work that anybody's doing. This is a reflection of the tough time that we're in. And it doesn't reflect that. We don't think they're doing good work.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it appears based on their online financial statements that they have expenses of around $1 million to $1.5 million a year and revenue of about $2.5 million.
So, yeah. We're not laughing at reducing, these budgets are tough.
Yeah.
Well, and this is really one of those around the
Yeah.
county responsible.
Yeah, no, right.
And that's kind of focus back us on
Back on,
some of
yeah,
how we have to prioritize,
Right.
when we are
And-
weighing against doing, our FAS work or mental assistance work or running the 911 call center versus,
Versus
something
this,
like
right.
this,
And this is Gibbs Farm, which is one of, their big efforts, and the community really supports that, and they have good contributions that support it too. So I acknowledge, thanks to the community, this is able to survive.
All right, so we can come back.
Okay, we're good till 1:30. Thank you.